What if the joke wasn't on you, but because of you? Not the punchline, the punch. Not the clown, but the curtain falling on the whole damn circus. They thought they were laughing at you, but the truth? They were laughing into the moment there. Illusion cracked. And you were already 3 steps ahead. Silent, smiling, building a world where their noise meant nothing. Let's go back. Back when they handed you the role like it was a gift. The class clown, the quirky one, the harmless presence they could roll their eyes at during meetings, pass around like a meme in group chats, quote out of context just to get a laugh. Cute, funny, harmless. That's what they wanted you to be. That's what they needed you to be. Because as long as you were the punchline, you couldn't be the threat. And you played along, not because you believed it, but because you were learning. You let them think the grin meant surrender. That the silence meant defeat. That the lack of drama meant you weren't paying attention. But you were. You were mapping the room like a sniper, noticing who laughed too loud, who looked away when truth entered, who always took the safe side of every argument. You weren't reacting. You were recording. Because here's what they never understood. Every time they said, "Don't take it so seriously," you took it more seriously. Every time they called you too much, you asked, too much what? Too real? Too aware? Too unwilling to pretend? And you started measuring the gap between their words and their actions like a scientist. Because in that gap, that tiny space between what people say and what they do, that's where power lives. And you began to collect it, not with rage, not with yelling, but with precision. You turned their mockery into momentum. Their dismissal became your discipline. Every backhanded compliment, every bless your heart, every condescending pat on the head, you filed it under fuel. You didn't burn with anger, you burned with focus. And slowly, quietly, you started doing the one thing they never saw coming. You got better. Not louder, not meaner, better. You stopped explaining yourself to people who only spoke in cliches. You stopped translating your depth into sound bites for audiences that only dog-paddled in shallow waters. You benched the version of you that begged for seats at tables that didn't want you. And in the silence, you built something unshakable. You learned how the air changes 5 seconds before someone lies. You learned which voices crack when they're cornered by honesty. You learned that the loudest people are often the most afraid of stillness, of being seen, of being known. And you stopped fearing any of it. You trained in the dark. You practiced stillness like a martial art. You rewired your nervous system so that chaos didn't rattle you. It revealed them. And then one day, something shifted. You walked into a room, same way you always did, and the energy stuttered, like the lights flickered, like the music cut for half a beat. People didn't stop talking, but their eyes darted. Their smiles didn't reach their pupils. Someone changed the subject too fast. And you didn't say a word. You didn't have to. Your presence had become a frequency, one that made liars check their pockets for loose change, for receipts, for alibis. That's when you knew the power had already moved. You weren't asking for respect anymore. You were issuing it by existing. No speeches, no grand declarations, just the quiet certainty of someone who's already won. And the people who once mocked you, they started watching, not to laugh, to learn. They began dissecting your old quotes like scripture. They lit metaphorical candles at the altar of your journey, whispering, "How did he do it?" Like it was magic. But it wasn't magic. It was math. Every heartbreak you didn't drown in became capital. Every betrayal you survived became interest. Every year they called you crazy or too intense. You converted that into compound leverage. You didn't just survive the storm. You reverse-engineered it. You studied the wind patterns. You mapped the pressure systems. And then you became the weather. And now they want the blueprint. They want the 10-step guide to becoming unbreakable. They want the playlist, the morning routine, the journal prompts. They want to know how you stopped needing their approval. And you could tell them, but you won't, because access is revoked. You paid for this wisdom in ways they can't even imagine. In sleepless nights, in silent breakdowns, in moments where the world told you to quit, and you whispered, "Not yet." You financed your evolution with the currency of pain, and now they want a discount, a free trial, a participation trophy. There is none. The gate is closed. The moat is deep. And the only way in, you have to bleed with me. Not metaphorically, not online, in the room, in the fire, in the silence where words fail and only loyalty stands. Everyone else? They can wave from the parking lot and practice their growth on mute. They keep calling it luck. Sure. If luck is showing up every day when no one was watching, if luck is choosing integrity when betrayal would have been easier, if luck is building a fortress from every "you'll never make it" and sleeping peacefully inside it, then yes, call it luck. But the receipt still reads, paid in full by the one they called a joke. And now the roles have reversed. They used to rehearse their laughter like it was a performance. Now they rehearse their apologies, scribbling them on napkins, practicing them in mirrors, sending soft DMs like they're submitting a permit request. But redemption isn't a coupon code. And you're not a 24-hour convenience store for their guilt. You moved, you upgraded, you rewired the light, straight to lightning. And now, every room you enter hums with that low-voltage warning, the kind that makes dishonesty flinch. You don't posture, you don't flex, you don't need to. Your silence has seniority. The air does roll call when you arrive. The floor remembers your footsteps. Even the echoes wait their turn. They say you've changed. Nah, you crystallized. You stopped auditioning for roles in stories you already owned. You stopped translating your ocean into puddles for people who only owned paper boats. If they can't swim, that's not your depth. That's their design. And let's be clear, this isn't a comeback. This is continuity. This is what happens when the backup system fails and the original keeps running. You're not the sequel. You're the source code. You left breadcrumb trails made of thunder. They called it noise. Now it sounds like your walk. They called your laughter delusion. Now it reads like a warning label. Do not operate without honesty. Everything hits different when the truth grows teeth. Everything tastes real when the mask melts. And the best part, you're not angry. They assume the calm is a cover, that the smile hides rage. But no, you're not angry. You're engineered. Your heart learned torque. Your spine learned policy. You swapped apologies for audits. You cut the power to every outlet that fried your peace. If it drains you, it's gone. If it stains, it's washed out. If it tries to negotiate your worth, it meets your no. And your no doesn't blink. You became consequence dressed like charisma, mercy with a machete, laughter with a ledger, and when they finally stutter out the question, what changed? You don't explain. You just smile. The same smile they once mistook for denial, for surrender, for escape. Now they know. That smile was a countdown, and the timer expired. You didn't become someone new. You became visible. The world just caught up to the warning. The match grew into a method. The joke finished loading and turned into a language you don't subtitle anymore. Welcome to fluency. The dialect is consequence, the accent is calm, so keep walking like the countdown that learned to become a sunrise. Keep smiling like the fuse that outlived the bomb. Keep being the real thing in a market full of samples, if they get quiet when you arrive. Good. That's the room adjusting to the truth of you. And if they ever forget what time it is, let the silence answer. Let the floor remember. This is where the joke stood. This is where everything got realer than real. They wrote think pieces about you without thinking. Tried to screenshot your soul and crop out the context. You watermarked it with consequence. Every time they press save, you press send. Back to yourself, because you don't need their cloud to remember your weather. That's the upgrade. You don't archive pain. You index it. You don't run from shadows. You file them under materials. Now their opinions show up like expired coupons at a store that doesn't sell permission. You used to beg for validation. Now validation auditions for you. The air does roll call. The lights ask for clearance. Even the echoes wait their turn. And when they ask for the ritual, here it is. And it isn't. You wake, you breathe, you choose. You pour standards like concrete and let them cure. You don't clap back. You call back invoices, interest on disrespect. It's a beautiful math, and you collect, in distance, in boundaries, in mirrors. No late fees, not even for the ones who taught you how to bleed on cue. Humiliation became your curriculum. You sold seats in the class, kept the front row for the version of you that didn't quit. Now you hand out diplomas with your grin, and a warning label, do not handle without honesty. They call it petty. The universe calls it precise. When justice shows up wearing your walk, that's not karma. That's logistics. You didn't harden your heart. You hired security. You didn't dim your spirit. You filed zoning permits. You don't crush bridges. You deactivate toll-free crossings. Payment is always in full. Accountability is non-negotiable. And dreams. Even your dreams got stricter. They started rejecting freeloaders. Fantasy lost its internship the day discipline went full-time. You still joke. You still dance. But the music lives in your bones now. Rhythm replaces reassurance. Tempo replaces permission. People either catch the beat or hear you fade like a train they didn't board. Powerful, inevitable, already gone. They'll say you're different because you don't flinch when rooms misread you. Truth is, you outsourced all that to the mirror. The mirror tells you what you are. The world just confirms or exits. If they mistake your frequency for arrogance, let them. You didn't climb out of the fire to argue about thermodynamics. You became flame with policies. You burn clean. You illuminate what's real. You refuse to scorch what stays honest. So keep cashing in the interest on every night you survived yourself. Keep signing silence like a contract that pays in clarity. Keep collecting the small wins like sharp coins until your pockets jingle with inevitability. And if they ask for the blueprint, tell them it's printed on the inside of their spine, and it only appears when they stop lying. That's not gatekeeping. That's the gate learning who can hold the key. Because yes, it's still getting realer than real. And you're past the tutorial. This is maintenance of a miracle. Daily, deliberate. This is the laugh that doesn't apologize. The walk that doesn't wobble. This is the real thing they tried to meme. Now running quality control on every room you enter. And if anyone needs a reminder, let the floor answer for you. The standard arrived, took its seat, and the air adjusted.